a man who knows a lot about something that we're going to be unveiling later on today, and we're going to get to it. So we've got the Trace Awards that are coming up later in the year, precisely the 21st of October. They're going to be in Kigali. And right about now, I want to introduce Mr. Danny Mucira, who is a managing director of Trace Eastern Africa. That's a very, very big region to be heading. He's on the show, I think, for the first time. He's been on the show enough times. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Morning, Kevin. Morning, viewer, listeners.
Yes.
Definitely good to be back on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people very, very excited. I've been getting a lot of calls, people asking me, how can I be a part of Trace Awards? When is it happening? As you would imagine, Trace being the big brand it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are very excited about it. But even before we get to the awards, 20 years of Trace.
Unbelievable. Yeah, amazing stuff. All started in a garage, someone's house, and today it is what it is.
So exactly 20 years ago, it started in a garage, right?
Yes.
So I know you've had conversations with some of the guys who've been there, right? When they were starting Trace 20 years ago, what was the vision?
The vision was simple. The vision was to give a platform to Afro-Urban content creators that would enable them express the African culture to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Tell the narrative from our own perspective as Africans, both in Africa and in African diasporas to the rest of the world. And that was a simple vision. It wasn't about opening 100 stations or getting 20 stations. It was just, let's tell our story in the best way possible.
Man, African stories by Africans to the diaspora, by people who know what it is. Now, having been around Trace and everything, what is that one thing that makes you feel like, Kenya, 20 years, these guys have really done it and done it in a very powerful way?
I mean, it's just the impact you've had. If you look at before Trace, after Trace, the impact from what's happening with the African music across the entire world. Trace is a significant part of that insofar as how we've taken African music to the rest of the world. And you see all these big artists coming through.
Yes.
They are more one way or the other related to Trace. If you look at what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in Tanzania, in West Africa with Afrobeat. I mean, just to be a small part or to be any part of that story and what African music is doing to the rest of the world, I think that's creating impact. I think it's enabling African creators and content creators to stand up and shine. And it's just telling our story in a way that is purely African. So we're not trying to mimic Western culture. We're actually expressing our culture in the way we know how. And I think finally, we're getting recognition at international levels. You're seeing Afrobeat being recognized in the Grammy. But if you see the number of collaborations that Western artists are doing with Afrobeat content creators, whether it's Amapiano, whether it's Afro-Urban sounds out of West Africa, South Africa. We're seeing even Tanzanians recording big collaborations and
a lot.
And we've seen our friends at Wasafi and what they're doing. I think it's an interesting time. I think it's a good storyline. I think it's bearing fruit at the right time, and I think Trace is extremely proud to be associated with what's happening with African music across the world.
Now, as we progress into, talking about the Trace Awards, every single time we're talking to different people, you ask them about Trace, guys are like, oh, I used to watch it. Oh, the magazine and all of this. Now, from a personal level, at what point did you first interface with Trace?
I mean, I think my teenage years, it was, Trace was one, I think after MTV was Trace.
Yes.
And I think what was unique about Trace was that unlike other stations, other music TV channels, Trace was localized. So for the first time, you started seeing African music on our TV platforms.
Yes.
Because what we were seeing then was really
Pop,
rock, R&B, rock. And that wasn't African music. So for the first time, we started seeing music from the DRC.
Yes.
We started seeing music from Afrobeat origins. We started seeing Kenyan music, and I think that was the difference. And that was the difference across the continent. Yeah. So it wasn't a movement that was limited to one part of the continent. The South Africans were seeing something that was unique. So they were seeing Kwaito coming through. The East Africans were seeing
all the different
what was happening from the East African front, whether it was Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. And I think that was then the difference between Trace and other stations or other music platforms, because we then brought a global approach, which meant that the standards were as high as international TV platforms, but then localized the content and gave local people something that was their own. I think what we've seen across the entire continent is people are extremely proud to be associated with their own. They support what is their own, and they truly yearn for local content, even from a music perspective.
Yes.
And that's really my association and how far it goes. So I think it must have been secondary school, getting into varsity and out of varsity, and just Trace then became the music platform, because at that point we didn't have digital platforms.
There wasn't,
Yeah, so I mean, Trace played a vital part, and to think that later on I'd then be involved directly, I think is just, the cycle going round.
So all of that said, so once again, congratulations for everything that you've done. The Trace Awards, first of its kind ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Going down in October in Kigali.
Yep.
So for anyone who's not heard about Trace Awards, if you're going to put in a very summative way, what is the Trace Awards?
It's just a celebration of African content creators, a celebration of African culture, and just recognizing that, these creators every day are telling our stories, our narratives in a unique way, in a special way. And for once, it's Africans telling their stories, not other people. We don't have to go to foreign awards in Europe or in the US to recognize our African talent. We are doing it right here, and I think that's the unique thing. And that's really what's happening so far as what the awards are about, celebrating, recognizing African talent.
22 categories. That is very broad.
So 22 that are involve voting.
Yes.
We have 3 special categories that are trace-driven. So we have a change maker category that speaks to recognizing people or individuals, organizations that have contributed from a social impact to the African community.
That's very good.
And then we have 22 categories that are voting related. So viewers, listeners will have to vote for these particular categories.
That must have been a very, very painful process. 22 categories all across so many different countries saying, I want this one, I want, it's not going to make everyone happy. But going through 22 categories and deciding this are who and who. How was that? Tell us about that experience.
I mean, it tells you how diverse Africa is. Yes. And then you start to realize that, Africa is not just Africa, because then you also have to look at the diaspora. Exactly. You have the Caribbeans, places like Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Martinique, Guadeloupe. All these are African diasporas,
Yes,
so, and all these are people contributing. And if you look even just at the African continent itself, it's extremely diverse. You have Anglophone, Francophone, Lusophone, all with different cultures and themes and directions that we all needed to accommodate. So, I mean, it's quite a fairly complex. So, for example, you couldn't have a Kenyan category because then you have to create 52 categories.
Yes.
You couldn't have an East African category because then you have to create maybe another 15 categories. And so this is the dynamics that went into looking at it. So, as much as possible, trying to be inclusive.
Yes.
Ensuring representation. So the 22 categories represent the fabric of the continent from a cultural perspective, from a creative perspective, and from a contribution perspective. So when you think about it, then it speaks to a very inclusive platform that speaks to celebrating African content creators.
So what's going to be the process for voting? Are people allowed to vote already?
So we've already opened the voting platform. It's on our we've got our website that speaks to this. The award website, you can actually go to the website and start voting now. There's QR codes in there. Every 24 hours you're allowed to vote, one vote for every category. So we're already seeing activity on this in specific places like Rwanda, where we are hosting the event. We'll partner with the mobile telcos to drive voting for the particular Rwandese category. So that's ongoing, and it's going to be closing mid-October, before the awards.
So Rwanda, I know a lot of people, especially with the core audience in Kenya for Trace East Africa, but we've got audience everywhere, right? A lot of people saying, why take it to Rwanda instead of hapa tu mtaani? I mean, it's a question a lot of people.
It's a valid question. It's a valid question. It's let's put it this way. I think Rwanda is an interesting destination from a MICE perspective, and I think increasingly Rwanda has played a massive role insofar as positioning themselves as a place where you can do conferences. If you speak to facilities, they have excellent facilities from a hotel perspective. High bed capacity, because you have to look at all these things when you're planning an event of this stature. Excellent bed capacity. They have the BK Arena, which is, I think there are only three in Africa, one in Senegal, one in Pretoria, and this one that is in Kigali. 12,000 seater, excellent decked out arena, easily can hold a concert. Sound system done already for the concert.
Installed already.
I mean, we've had various concerts being done there. Very scalable, very well structured arena. No one has that in the rest of Africa apart from South Africa and Senegal. So it starts to be a no-brainer insofar as holding the event in Rwanda is concerned. And then you have Visit Rwanda, that is really under the Rwanda Development Board. You've seen what Visit Rwanda is doing across the world, whether it's at Arsenal. And so they're very keen on positioning Rwanda as a destination from a creative perspective. And there's a proper drive led by their president, His Excellency Kagame. And so we're seeing that. So the things, everything just came together. It made sense. Visit Rwanda was supportive. The facilities were present. And to hold an award this magnitude, you need everything to come together. And facilities were there. Support from government was there. And it was just a perfect blend between them and trade and trace. And from a vision perspective, there was alignment.
Makes sense. Now, from today, I saw that the Trace team was in Rwanda for the official, commencement towards the awards. There's something special that's happening tonight for Trace Awards. It's called the award tour, and it's in Nairobi. What is this going to entail? I know a lot of people are excited. Guys have been asking me, kuna tickets? Guys asking, hounding my phone. What exactly is going on this evening?
Okay, so today we get to unveil Kenya's nominees to the awards, and Kenya has two nominees that will be gracing these awards. We have our very own Janet Otieno, who's one of the best gospel artists across the African continent. So a huge
that's a very huge honor
for her to get recognition. And we have Nadia Mukami, who's also been nominated for best female category. I think if you look at their contributions to the music industry. I think they've been consistent. I think they've displayed integrity, hard work, and just creativity all round in their profession. And so we'll be unveiling these two nominees. We're looking forward to having a good event at Milan.
Yes.
We did the same in Rwanda last week. We unveiled the Rwandese nominees.
Yes.
And we'll be doing this in 9 other capitals across the continent and the world, because it's also really it's a global event.
Diaspora, as you said.
So diaspora. So we go to Lagos, Accra. We go to Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, then we do Johannesburg in South Africa, Rwanda, Angola, move over to Europe, where we're doing Paris, UK, and a bit of the diasporas, Brazil, and probably Martinique, Guadeloupe, before winding down
in
Rwanda for the actual awards and festival.
So for Rwanda, what should guys expect? Because this is now a culmination of everything. They've seen everybody who's been invited. It's a 3-day event. We're talking from the 21st all the way to the 23rd. What should we expect?
I think, look, we expect a festival, expect a carnival, expect a 4-day event that brings together entertainment, education, empowerment.
Okay.
We've set up a festival at Camp Kigali, Exhibition Village.
Okay.
Massive place where we'll have for the 3 days continuous activities that speak to master classes for young people, where we empower young people. We have Google, TikTok coming in to speak about content creation, web marketing, about just new trends from a digital perspective. We have partners speaking to various creative verticals across the industry. We've got entertainment platforms, so we'll have DJs performing throughout. We've got partners, Braliwa, coming on board to provide refreshments. We've got a marketplace where people we've done stalls. People can showcase their skill, their products and services from across Africa. So we'll have a whole party atmosphere around it. In the evenings, we'll have certain street takeovers in Kigali. For those that are aware, with Kigali, places like Kismenti, we'll have various parties sponsored by various partners through the evening. So it's a 3-day festival, carnival that will happen in Kigali, culminating with the awards. A 3-hour award ceremony at BK Arena on Saturday, the 21st, where we'll now celebrate and recognize nominees amongst the 25 categories. We have over 150 artists coming from the entire continent and their diasporas, and we're talking massive. The Afrobeat guys, Wizkid, Burna Boy, Davido, Tiwa, Rema and the guys, East Africa, Diamond, Zuchu, Kenyans being represented by Janet and Nadia Mukami, and they're South Africans. So we'll have a huge congregation of all the big names across the African entertainment sector. So I think it's a melting point. It's going to be a 3-day extravaganza that will leave a mark and a highlight on the African continent. And for those that will not be in Rwanda, I think we are broadcasting this live across 19 trace channels with a reach of 350 million people across the world. We are live streaming this as well on YouTube platforms. We've got partnerships with African free-to-air broadcasters to broadcast the same. So we are creating as huge an audience as possible for this very fast African event.
This essentially is like... the Grammys have never even done this for the continent. This is the biggest ever.
Well, look, I think they've got their approach. I think the Grammys are an established institution. I think what we're trying to do here is begin to set a platform that speaks to celebrating Africans, for Africans, by Africans, and telling our narrative in the way that is most appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Africans were very good at telling our own stories. But I feel for so many years our stories have been told. So it's about time we told our story. Now, before I let you go, I've got to ask you, which is that one category that you're looking forward to seeing? Like, there's so many. I mean, we've said there's 22 categories in which people can vote, and 3 other categories that are going to be trace-centered. But which is that category?
Let me take the 5th. You're asking the turkey to vote for Christmas. I'm not sure.
No,
I'm not sure that's fair. I mean, I think there are many categories I'm looking forward to. But importantly, I think, for me, it's just all the categories and then just seeing Africans being recognized. So that for me would be the powerful thing. I don't think there's a lesser category. I think it's just, people may have different views, but they're all interesting. So, if you look at best song, best male artist,
dancer, best DJ,
best female artist,
best producer.
Yeah, these are all very significant contributors to the Afro-Urban community and movement.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming through once again. Make sure that you go vote, right? So I'll be giving you guys the link as to where you can vote and how you can vote. And Danny, one final question. I know a lot of people are wondering if they will be able to come to Rwanda, like Kenyans, Ugandans, and all of that. Will there be a way in which they can get tickets to the actual show?
Yeah, so the tickets go out on sale in the next week or 2.
Yeah.
We're just finalizing that, so you should be able to buy tickets. Rwanda has excess accommodation. The number of hotels. You have Marriott, you have Serena, you have and
there's Airbnb.
There's Airbnbs. Yes. There's 4 Points. So there's options all over Kigali, and come enjoy Kigali hospitality. Yeah. A beautiful place to visit. And come enjoy the festival as well. So tickets going out, be on the lookout. Make sure you're interacting with us at Trace Eastern Africa. Thank you very much, Danny, for coming through. I know you've got a very, very big day ahead, and we can't even forget the sponsors. So you mentioned Visit Rwanda, who are coming on board. They've been very good. We've got the likes of BK Arena. We've got Mattel, who are doing a brilliant job. And who else? Yes, I think without all these people, and special shout-outs to Panorica, yes. Visit Rwanda, BK Arena, Rwanda Air, yes. Brali YMT and Rwanda, all this Inyange from Crystal Ventures, all these guys without whom we would not really have been able to stage an event of this magnitude. So special recognition and thank you and shout out to these particular sponsors that have really stood with us, shared our vision, and more importantly, come to the table insofar as how to execute this particular event. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. And once again to our sponsors, we appreciate the partnership. So definitely be on the lookout, be on the social media. I know today is going to be very buzzing, right? We're going to be sharing a lot of stories from the Kenyan launch of our nominee. So be on the lookout for that. So it's going down tonight at Milan. Thank you very much, Danny. Once again, congratulations. And of course, to the Trace Awards. You should also, by the way, before I forget, follow Trace Awards. There's a handle. I'm going to be posting it Trace
out.
Awards and Festival.
Trace Awards and Festival. Make sure you follow for the latest news in terms of what's going on, the pictures, the tickets, everything that we've spoken about.
So the last time I was on this show, I got to pick a song. I'm surprised.
Do you want to pick?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want?
Sumu by Alikiba.